Hey everybody, welcome to number 3 vlog of Comfortable Hell. And so if you listened to the last one, I sort of talked about how I got into my relationship, how it all started. But I don't know, in this one, I'm going to expand on that a little bit and talk about how I think I got into situations that weren't good for me. So anyway, when let's start over. So basically, after my divorce, I didn't date for about 5 or 6 years. It didn't even occur to me to date, honestly. My kids were so little. And it was kind of like this survival mode almost, like where that's all I cared about. I cared about my relationship with my kids and that they were being taken care of. And it wasn't, that whole time period was very, very difficult because it was during that time that I stopped receiving child support. I no longer, I lost my ability to claim my children on taxes every year. I can only do it every other year. Making substantially less. So I was going through a really, really hard time, and I almost lost my car. I had to take money out of my 401k to survive and to pay for attorney's fees. And I couldn't afford food. People would bring me groceries. Friends would loan me money. I couldn't work like a regular 9-to-5 job because my kids were little and I didn't have anyone to help me with them, and I couldn't pay anyone. So, my kids couldn't stay by themselves, and I had to take them to school and pick them up every other day, and I didn't have anyone to help me do that. So I was driving for Uber. I was coaching gymnastics, when my kids, while my kids were in school, I was trying to do as much work as I could to have money. I didn't really eat. I weighed 96 pounds. This was several years ago. I would eat off their plates, basically. Like, they'd be like, "Mommy, why are you not eating?" And I said, "Oh, I ate before you guys got here." And I would eat like a half-eaten chicken nugget or whatever they didn't eat. And so everything that I had just went to them. I don't know. It was a really, really hard time for me. So there was a few years that were really touch and go. And like I said, I almost got my car taken away, and I just didn't have any money coming in. Everything that I had went to feeding them and my rent. And so I didn't really think about dating anyone. And so one thing that really turned it around, and for those of you that don't know, I've been a student of the Kabbalah Center for over 20 years. And I used to have this friend she was a Buddhist, and she and I would have something. I worked with her, and we would call it church chat, and we would talk to each other. We would just have some spiritual conversation for a little bit, a few minutes in the morning. And so she was Buddhist, and she would say, "There's no way I would study Kabbalah because it's too hard." So she would call Buddhism Kabbalah light. And she was like, I'm quite fine just doing that. So I feel like anyone who studies Kabbalah, it's a very, very deep spirituality, and it really forces you to take a look at yourself and your ego and to face it. And I faced my ego many, many times. And during this period where I was in a very dark place as far as like financially, and just trying to put my best face forward all the time, and trying to find more clients, but it was just dwindling and dwindling in my business, and it was super hard. My teacher said, you need to ask someone for money. Regardless of how hard that may be, you need to do it. And I felt like I wanted to throw up, because I couldn't believe I was about to do this. And so I asked this person for money because I couldn't pay my rent. And this person said no. And just me doing that, when you face your ego that hard and you say something and you're sweating and you want to grab a garbage can to throw up in, this is what that moment was for me. And my teacher said, it doesn't matter if you get the money or not. What matters is that you're facing your ego. And my ego was like the witch on Wizard of Oz. When I asked this person for money, it was like my ego was like collapsing on itself. And I felt, after I did it, and this person said no, it didn't matter, I felt like the richest person in the world. I can't explain it. Facing your ego is hands down the best way. Just when you think you can't do something and you do it and you face it, it turns everything around. And for whatever reason, like I said, I felt like the richest person, even though I got no money from it. I opened the door to this financial abundance. And how it came in was this way that I never saw. I never thought of it coming in. But by me doing that, I opened up this door for this abundance where I paid off, my car and my credit card and the IRS, because I had to take all this money out of my 401k and I had to pay taxes on it and penalties and all this stuff. So I paid off all of those bills, and I had money in the bank for the first time. Now, I'm not saying that it was this huge financial windfall, but it was enough for me to take care of all of my obligations and have money, have a decent chunk of sort of like emergency fund in the bank, that I was like, oh my God, I can't even tell you how appreciative I was, but I did a lot. I worked to get that. Nonetheless, so that happened. I just thought I would share that. Why I didn't date for so long. But another thing that I wanted to share in this particular vlog was how I felt about myself in relationships. And I feel like I was this person who, in my head, I saw myself dating, somebody who was on the same spiritual path as me. And when I say spiritual, I don't mean like religious or anything like that. Spirituality is like you're working on yourself, you're working on your ego, you're begging the light, God, creator, whatever you want to call it, to show you more of your bullshit, more of your garbage, more of all, the horrible things you've done to people, said to people, things you don't even notice. And I've been on this path for over 20 years, and I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've begged for forgiveness every year during the holidays, during Rosh Hashanah, all these time frames. I have begged for forgiveness for things that I've done wrong. And trust me, I've seen things that I have done wrong and I wish I could take back, but all I can do is, go forward and, hold myself accountable and never do those things again. But I always saw myself with somebody who was on that same path, who was working on themselves and really wanting to change and changing the world and, but I never ended up with anyone like that. It was like I ended up with this safe person. And what I mean by that is I would maybe date somebody who was independent and had friends and was, just like more free-spirited. And I would never end up with that person because I never felt secure with that person. I always felt like they didn't like me enough. So I demanded, it's like when I would meet somebody, I needed that person to sort of give me everything, show me that you really like me. And if they were independent, I wasn't feeling that. I needed more. So I always ended up with guys that completely gave themselves up, and almost sort of had a little bit of this obsessiveness. I needed that. That was the only way that they possibly liked me, was that, they probably didn't have a lot of friends. And the guys I always ended up with didn't have a lot of friends, for reasons, but red flags. But it was like they had to give me 100% of themselves or I didn't feel like they liked me. So at the end of the day, I always ended up with someone who felt very comfortable. They focused on me 100%. And that way I felt like they liked me. If it was somebody who was very independent and sort of doing their own thing and checked in with me here and there, I'd be like, screw you, you don't care about me. And it was so dumb, but I didn't know. And these are all things that I'm learning. And so this particular relationship, my comfortable hell relationship, even though I've had many, this one is the one that I'm highlighting and focusing on. This particular one was the same sort of situation. It was, I decided to finally join a dating app after all of these years and going through all of this shit that I went through. I was like, let's get on an app and see, how that works out. And I did, and I felt like so stupid because I'm on Tinder and I don't know how to operate this, and I don't know, people are hooking up on it, and that's not what I'm looking for. So I wrote that I had this profile that was like, please swipe on me if you're, you have all this like shit, like a squirrel for your picture and all this other stuff. Stupid, right? Like stupid. I'm looking for an actual relationship. And so there was a guy that super liked me. And so I'm just going through, this way, swiping left, like it's, like we all do. And I see a super like, so I go in, I'm looking at this, this person, and I end up with him. I talked about this in my other vlog. There was no way for me to escape it. We hook up. But I didn't really want to choose this person because I felt like, he's from the same town and he went to the same school system. And it was just like every other guy that I dated. I was like, where is that person that's like different? But I wasn't different inside. I was still the same old person. Even though I have been through a lot of things, I hadn't changed inside. So I was still sort of, these guys were still gravitating toward me that was pulling in the same sort of bullshit. And so we ended up, we're texting, blah, blah, blah. And everything in my soul was telling me that this was going to be the same situation. It was like the same where here's somebody that's really focusing on me a lot. They're paying a lot of attention to me. He's texting, like checking off all of the boxes of my internal bullshit that I've been living forever, and the same song and dance. But I was like, oh, well, this one's going to be different. Well, it really wasn't. But I was like, oh, let's give it a shot. I can change him, right? I'm a spiritual woman. I can work with him and let's grow together and blah, blah, blah. He seems to be fairly successful. He's got kids, great. Let's do it. So, yeah, same. I don't feel like I changed inside, and I feel like I was about to embark on a same relationship, but my ego kept telling me it's going to be different. You can work with this one. This is going to be different. So, yes, here we are. A little bit about me, a little bit about how this happened, and stay tuned for more on my comfortable hell relationship. Bye, guys.